Hey everyone, Poindexter here, and we're preparing to fly our third mission in our continuing playthrough of the Guadalcanal campaign in the solitaire wargame Corsair Leader by Dan Verson Games. Our last mission saw our Marines sink a Japanese light carrier and emerge victorious over 2 Japanese pilots in a small dogfight mission. We did lose 1 pilot, however, and the long range of the carrier mission caused the pilots a great deal of stress, with some returning shaken up because of the ordeal. Regardless, we're making headway in the early stages of the campaign. So, let's get started and see how our next mission plays out. The first step in the pre-flight phase is to draw target cards. Our current recon location indicates we draw 3. The first card is Target 32, a destroyer. This is a secondary naval target with the small indicator. This means that we apply a -1 modifier to all air-to-ground attacks. It also has the -1 turn indicator, which means we have 1 less turn to complete the mission. The second target is Target 21, small AAA. The objective here is to destroy 3 20mm ground sites. And the final draw is Target 34, a battleship. This target has the hard indicator, meaning we subtract 1 hit from the target if any are scored. As you can tell by the left panel, this is one beast of a target, with 2 possible naval sites in the approach areas and 3 in the center. Adding the number of bandits that could appear make this target even more difficult. It does have the gung-ho indicator, but it's not enough enticement for us to consider attacking right now, so we won't be going after this one. That leaves the destroyer and the small AAA. The destroyer is located here, and the AAA here. The AAA will cause our pilots a lot of stress, so it won't be a walk in the park. But we'll select the AAA as our primary target, and the destroyer as our secondary. There are no sites or bandits for the primary target, but we must still draw for 1 bandit because of our current intel location. However, the event card we drew on the last mission states that we don't draw for bandits until the end of the second turn, so we'll only be exposed to a possible bandit for a shorter time. Our target is selected, and we now determine and place sites. We place 3 20mm targets in the center area, our objectives for this mission. Now we assign pilots for both primary and secondary missions. The target card for our primary states we can take 2 aircraft. We're going to take a risk and send 2 bombers on the mission. This means no fighter escort, so let's hope that single bandit doesn't make an appearance. We'll select Peter Gardner and his TBF, and the ever-reliable but slightly stressed Grimmond, who will also be the flight leader. For the secondary mission against the destroyer, we'll send Lewis and his SBD, but bring along an escort, our newbie pilot, Regalo. The last step is arming our aircraft. Our 2 Avengers will carry 2 500-pound bombs, and Lewis's dive bomber will carry a single 1,000-pound bomb. With our loadouts completed, we start the next phase, the target-bound flight. Our first step is to draw a target-bound event card, and it's the Black Sheep event. If none of our pilots are shot down on this mission, we gain 2 SO points. Next, we place our aircraft. Our 2 Avengers will start in the northern pre-approach area and fly at low altitude, since our 500-pound bombs can only be dropped at that height. Because of the bad leadership event card, we skip the intel adjustment step for now, since this will be our only requirement to draw for bandits, and move on to the over-target event card. Fortunately, the timing on this one is good, and the card has no effect as we would have had to apply a -2 modifier to all dogfight maneuver die rolls. Thankfully, there are no bandits present on this mission. At least not yet. Finally, we place the turn counter on the turn 1 space and begin the over-target phase. Our first couple of turns will go quickly as our Avengers make their way to the target area. We skip the dive bomber portion of this phase, as we have none, and move directly to aircraft move. Our pair of Avengers move into the north approach area, and we also skip the bandits move step, since there are none this mission. So we move to the last step, advancing the turn counter, and turn 2 begins. At the start of the second turn, we proceed directly to aircraft move, and our pair of bombers enter the target area. We advance the turn counter again and start turn number 3. The bad leadership event card will now go into effect, and we will have to draw for 1 bandit on the next turn. The third turn begins, and our mission is about to get more strenuous. Neither Gardner nor Grimmond are fast pilots, so we skip this step, where we draw 1 bandit. Let's hope the Japanese are nowhere to be seen. And we draw a no bandit counter, which makes our mission much easier to complete, though it's still no cakewalk. Next is sights and bandits attack. There are 3 sights against 2 aircraft, so this may get hairy. We randomly determine which sights target which aircraft. Unfortunately, all 3 sights target Gardner, which means he will be performing a lot of evasion. Gardner gains 1 stress as he evades the fire of the first sight. After rolling 2 dice, Gardner manages to take no damage on a roll of 3. The second sight targets Gardner and he goes evasive again, adding another stress point. The 20mm gun sight fires, and Gardner manages to escape again with no hits or additional stress on a roll of 2. The final sight takes its turn, and Gardner goes evasive a 3rd time, gaining another stress. The sight fires, and Gardner maneuvers out of the line of fire a 3rd time on a 1, with no hits or additional stress. All sights have attacked, and now our Avengers get their turn in the slow pilot's attack step. Gardner will attack this 20mm sight first. We only need to score 1 hit to destroy it. Gardner has a +2 air-to-ground modifier, so with a 500-pound bomb, we'll need to roll a 5 or better to score 1 hit. Gardner drops one of his bombs and just manages to hit on a 5. The first sight has been destroyed. Grimmond targets a second sight and begins his attack run. He has a +1 air-to-ground modifier, but also has the quick hands skill, which adds another +1 against the target, which makes +2. So we need another roll of 5 or better to score a hit. Grimmond drops a bomb on the target site, rolls a 10, which scores 2 hits, more than enough to destroy the site. Both Avengers have finished their attacks, and we skip the aircraft move step and finish with advancing the turn counter, which begins turn number 4. We start the 4th turn with sights and bandits attack, since we have no fast pilots. The last remaining sight targets Gardner, who will go evasive, adding another stress point. The sight fires, and Gardner goes evasive. And the apprehensive Japanese gunners miss on both rolls with a 3 and 2. Slow pilots attack next, and Gardner targets the last enemy sight. We add +2 to his attack, which means the die needs to show a 5 or better. Gardner drops his remaining bomb, but misses on a modified 4. It's up to Grimmond now, and he makes his final attack run. Again, we'll need to roll a 5 or better to destroy the site. Gremlin lines up and drops his last bomb. And the bomb lands just short of the site. The aircraft move step is next, and with no more ordnance to drop, our Avenger pilots peel off and head for home, leaving one site untouched in the target area. Since we're playing with the optional damaging targets rule, we do gain one of the 2 victory points since we destroyed more than half of the targets in the target area. We begin the homebound phase and draw an event card. And it's another good one. All bandits suffer a -2 air-to-air penalty during our next mission. We don't need to perform SAR since we lost no pilots, so we end the primary mission here for now and begin our secondary mission. We begin by placing the destroyer target on the board and draw one naval site, placing it in the center area. And it's a 1-inch gun, which is effective only at low altitude. Lewis and Regalo are already on their way to the target, so we begin the target-bound phase and draw an event card. And we draw zeroed in, which increases our air-to-ground stats by 2 for the remainder of the mission, which will greatly help during our dive bombing attack. We place our aircraft next, and both pilots will start in the western pre-approach area. Both pilots will fly at high altitude. Next is determining and placing bandits. But there are no bandits on this target, so we proceed to Intel Air Defense adjustments. Our present intel position has us drawing one bandit, which we'll place in the center area. And we get lucky again with another no bandit counter. We now draw an over-target event card. And it's gung-ho. The first pilot to roll a 10 on an attack die permanently increases his gung-ho by 1. Finally, we place the turn counter on the turn 1 space, and we begin the over-target phase. But before we start, note the destroyer's information section and the -1 turn. This means instead of having 5 turns to destroy the target, we only have 4, so we'll adjust the turn counter by 1 space. There won't be anything left for us to do this turn other than move aircraft, since there are no bandits and no sights in range. So we'll move our flight 1 space, and we advance the turn counter. The same process is played out on this turn as well. We move our aircraft, and the flight enters the target area. We advance the turn counter, and begin the next turn, which will be our attack run. Our attack begins, and Lewis pushes his SBD into a dive and drops to low altitude. We have no fast pilots, so we skip this step and proceed to sights and bandits attack. The 1-inch gun targets Lewis, since he is the only aircraft at low altitude. Lewis will go evasive, which gains him a stress point. The battery fires, and we roll 2 dice. And it's 8 and 6, both of which are high enough to damage Lewis's SBD. And Lewis receives 2 more stress points because of the damage. Fortunately, the stress is not enough to cause him to become shaken. Now, our slow pilots attack, and Lewis gets his chance at revenge. Lewis has a +1 air-to-ground modifier, and we add +2 to that because of the diving attack. The zeroed-in event card adds another +2 modifier, but the destroyer is a small target, which means we apply a -1 modifier for the air-to-ground attack roll. With all modifiers added, we apply a +4 to Lewis's attack. We only need to score 2 hits to destroy the ship. With Lewis's 1,000-pound bomb and a +4 modifier, we'll need to roll a 3 or better. Lewis lines up and drops his bomb. And plants a bullseye. He rolls a 10, scoring the maximum 3 hits for a 1,000-pounder, and sinks the destroyer. Moreover, the Gung Ho event card gives Lewis a second Gung Ho marker, since he rolled a 10 for his attack. The next step is aircraft move, and our 2 pilots leave the area and begin their trek home. We start the homebound phase and draw an event card. And it's downtime. We'll remove 1 extra stress point from all pilots who did not fly a mission today, which will be very helpful. There is no need to roll for SAR since we lost no pilots, so we proceed to the debriefing phase and begin tallying our victory points and recording the mission outcomes. Target 21 was our primary target, the small AAA sites. It was worth 2 victory points, but we didn't destroy the target completely, leaving 1 site untouched. However, we do score 1 victory point since we destroyed more than half of the targets. However, we don't apply the recon adjustment, which only applies if we destroy a target. Our secondary mission, Target 32, was successful, however. We gain another victory point, and we do advance the recon marker, since the target was destroyed. Finally, thanks to the Black Sheep event card drawn during the primary mission, we receive 2 SO points, since none of the aircraft were shot down. The next debriefing step is to add target card stress to our pilots. The small AAA mission was in a stress 3 zone, so we add 3 stress points to Gardner and Grimmond, which puts both TBF pilots in the shaken range. Target 32, the destroyer, is in a stress 2 zone, and we add 2 stress points to Lewis and Regalo. Regalo is still okay, but barely so, and Lewis is shaken. Lewis's SBD is also repaired. We also need to apply the stress factor of the poor conditions of Henderson Field. Since we were gifted with 2 SO points, we'll spend them both, 1 on the primary and 1 on the secondary mission, to keep from rolling a die. The next step is pilot stress recovery. Grimmond and Lewis both have +1 cool ratings, so we remove 1 stress point from these pilots. This improves Grimmond's state to OK. These are all the adjustments for the pilots who flew today. Now we'll adjust the stress levels of those pilots who did not fly. First, we'll remove 1 stress for all pilots with a cool rating. All of them are +1. And we'll remove 2 more stress since they did not fly a mission today. But we're not done just yet, as the downtime event card lets us remove another stress point for the pilots that did not fly. Campbell and Graycap have improved their status to OK, though Graycap will still need more time to fully recover. Finally, we record pilot experience and stress. Gardner and Grimmond gain 1 experience point for flying the primary mission, and a 2nd point for the Into the Fray campaign attribute. For the secondary mission, Regalo earns 1 experience point for flying the mission, 1 for target destruction without losing any aircraft, and a 3rd for Into the Fray. Lewis also gains 3 experience points, which also earns him a promotion from average to skilled. This has the effect of improving his stress levels, taking him out of the shaken range and making him OK. Also, he gains a 2nd cool rating, and his air-to-ground stats improve to +2. And with that, we've reached the end of the video. We failed to destroy a target for the first time today, and our 2 Avenger pilots gained much stress after flying such a long mission. We did damage the target, however, enough to earn a victory point, so it wasn't a complete loss. On the bright side, our secondary mission, in which we sunk a Japanese destroyer, was a great success, earning Dauntless pilot Lewis a promotion, and newbie Wildcat pilot Regalo much-needed experience. Both missions also saw no Japanese bandits make an appearance, which was a relief. The pilots that stayed behind also had some quality downtime, and a large portion of the squadron are now fully rested. But our job at Henderson Field is far from over, and our Marine pilots do not need to rest on their laurels too much, as there are still numerous targets left to deal with, and many of them are quite deadly. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next mission.